Cole Sillinger had a pretty significant sophomore slump this season, but how much of it was his fault? Can he pull his way out of it? And how bad was he this season? We're going to be talking all about Cole Sillinger on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to bring you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every day. Locked On Blue Jackets continues to be free and available on all podcast platforms and also over on YouTube and also on Sirius XM. So if you are a radio app person, you can find us there. No Hayden today, unfortunately. Due to scheduling conflict, he will be back for tomorrow's episode, though, which we love to see. So it's just me today, unfortunately, but you put up with just me for the past 3 years, so hopefully you will put up with me for one more episode. We're going to be talking all about Cole Sillinger today. We're going to do his season review. It's not going to be great, I think, but I want to really dig into why it was so bad and how to fix that for next season, basically. I think there was some bright spots. Not many, but I think there was some. But I want to talk a little bit about kind of how this team can help Cole Sillinger get back to the Cole Sillinger that we saw last season. So we'll start off just a quick kind of review of his season. He played 64 games and had 11 points in those games. So not great. Last season, he was 79 games and 31 points. He had 16 goals, 15 assists, 31 points. This season, 3 goals, 8 assists, and 11 points. They eventually sent him down to the Monsters. He played 11 games for the Monsters and had 2 goals and 4 assists, which, again, is not as dominant as I would have liked, but I think probably was good for him to kind of get his confidence back a little bit and to play some lower stakes hockey. And I hate the gripping the stick too tight metaphor, but I think a lot of this season was that. I think a lot of it was the pressure to have another good season. Because I think he had a really good rookie season. I think he had a way better rookie season than a lot of people were expecting. A lot of the people that I talked to were like, yeah, he gets an A for this season or an A+. And then this season, he came in. He started slow. I think it took him a minute to even score that first goal. Let me see if I can find when his first goal this season was, because I feel like it took a minute. He didn't score a goal until November 12th. He scored another one on November 17th, and then he didn't score again until March 17th against Anaheim. It was like a 25-30 game gap between goals. Like, it was bad. It's not good, I think. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, it's not his fault. And, I know he can do better, even though those things are technically true. In the NHL, you don't get a lot of leeway for, well, I'm sure it'll be better next season. And, you were screwed over by a bunch of various things, not least of it being, the coaching, I think. And I did kind of come into this ready to throw hands with Brad Larson about giving him terrible, crappy ice time. And I still think he didn't get the best quality ice time. But I did the math. And he only played, on average, I think a minute less per game than he did last season. So it's not like he was getting unfairly, I feel like this season I've talked a lot about Cole Sillinger and how he wasn't getting ice time. And that's kind of, yes, it's true. He was on average 12 minutes a game, I think. But he was on average 13 minutes a game last season, and he still managed to get 30 points out of it as an 18-year-old, So it's a frustrating case study to look at, but I want to look, first of all, at his line mates this season. And I don't necessarily think line mates are all to blame. I think we should have expected a drop. I think basically every young player has a drop. That sophomore season, they call it the sophomore slump for a reason. I was not expecting him to come out of the gate like he did last season. I was expecting him to be maybe as good visually, but I wasn't expecting him to take a huge step forward. I would have accepted 30 points from Cole Sillinger this season, and he didn't do that. He got 11, and then got sent down to the AHL. His most consistent line mates this season were Kent Johnson and Kirill Marchenko. On paper, that looks like an incredible line. They played a grand total of 74 minutes and 21 seconds together at 5v5. That's so 11 games they played that line together of Cole Sillinger's 64, was it? Yeah. No wonder the kid can't score if you're not giving him any kind of consistent line mates. The next one down, Foodie, Sillinger, Bemstrom, 54 minutes. Nyquist, Sillinger, Chinikov, 38 minutes. Robinson, Sillinger, Chinikov, 29 minutes. If you're not going to give the kid the same line mates, and I understand that lines get jumbled and, it's kind of the onus is on the players to be able to play well with whoever you play with. And I get that. But if he doesn't know who he's going to be playing with and, he gets a different line mate every single game, and he's 19 years old and it's his second year in the league and he's coming off of an incredible rookie season where there's a lot of pressure on him. I can kind of understand why he crumbled a little bit this season. And I think there's a confidence issue there, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. But I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the line mates, because he played, what was it? He played 851 minutes this season, and 75 minutes were his most consistent line mates. I'm not surprised by Cole Sillinger's dip in production. By contrast, last season, his most consistent line mates were... Let me pull this up. Last season, his most consistent line mates were Voracek and Chinikov, and they played 122 minutes together. So, and then after that, it was Voracek, Sillinger, and Bjorkstrand, who played 105 minutes together. So I'm not I don't know. You swap one guy out. You swap Chinikov for Bjorkstrand, and then suddenly, instead of getting just a complete line blender of players, I get it. I do still think that Sillinger needs to be better next season, but I think this is a big reason why he struggled this season. So in a minute, we're going to talk a little bit about confidence and kind of what happened there. But first, I've got to tell you about a new sponsor that we have, and that's Birddogs. Birddogs are the comfiest shorts in the entire world. That's not hyperbole. That's not me just reading what they want me to read. They are the comfiest shorts I have ever worn. A bunch of the Locked On hosts have been wearing theirs this week, and every single person says the same thing. They fit great. They look great. They are so, so comfy. They are suitable for the golf course, or if you have a meeting, or if you want to hang out with friends. Maybe don't go to a meeting wearing shorts, but, you can go basically anywhere with your Birddogs. They're so comfy. They look great. And I wish I'd had these during the pandemic when I was exclusively wearing pajama pants and shorts, because they would have fit right into my wardrobe rotation. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnNHL. When you enter promo code LockedOnNHL, buy literally any pair of shorts. They're all great. And you're going to get a free custom Birddogs Yeti-style tumbler with every single order. Once again, that is birddogs.com/LockedOnNHL. Get the comfiest shorts in the world and a really great free tumbler with every purchase. birddogs.com/LockedOnNHL. In the NHL, confidence is the name of the game, and I think that's a reason why. And we've talked about this a little bit. Kent Sillinger. That's not even almost what I was going to say. Kent Johnson had a really good rookie season, and you look at that kid, and he just oozes confidence. I don't know if there's anything in the world that you could do to Kent Johnson that would knock that kid's confidence. He's 90% of him is confidence, and the rest of him is that flicky hair. That's all there is. Cole Sillinger, I think, is not as confident as Kent Johnson. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it takes time to build up confidence in this league. But when you look at the game logs of Cole Sillinger, and we talked about how it took him until, November 12th to score a goal. It took him, he had 2 assists in the first month of the season. So between October 12th and November 12th, he had 1 assist on October 25th versus Arizona and another one on October 30th versus New Jersey. And that was it for his score sheet right up until November 12th when he scored his first goal. So the first, 14 games of the season, he's got 3 points. A veteran player, I think, knows that cold streaks come, especially for a guy like Cole Sillinger, who we saw a lot of his 2-way game advance last season. But Cole Sillinger is a sniper. He's a shooter. He's a goal scorer. And goal scorers go cold. We've seen that with Oliver Bjorkstrand is maybe the streakiest goal scorer the Blue Jackets have had in a minute. Sometimes you go 10 games without scoring a goal and then you score in bunches. It's about keeping going. It's about not letting that knock your confidence. I think Cole Sillinger knows this logically, but when you're 19 and, you are not scoring and you're watching your ice time go from 14 minutes to 12 minutes to 9 minutes, it's frustrating and it's understandable and it's something that he has to work past. Unfortunately, this is not a thing where there is an easy, hey, do this and suddenly you'll get more confident. Confidence is something you have to work at, and it's a really tricky thing to develop, especially as a young player. And I do think, and I've talked about this to a couple of different people kind of on the podcast and off the podcast, about did Cole Sillinger hit the NHL too early? Should he have gone back to the WHL for a season and just been the guy in Medicine Hat and torn it the heck up? Should he have gone back to the USHL? I can't remember what the team I can't remember what the team he was playing for is called. He played for the Sioux Falls Stampede in the USHL just prior to being drafted, which is why he could go to the AHL before turning 20 because they don't have the CHL agreement. Anyway, should he have gone back there and again torn it the heck up? Maybe. I understand he played well enough to make the NHL last season, and I was thrilled and super excited and very smug about the fact that he was the only draft pick from that round to stick it in the NHL all season. But the more I look at this season, the more I think, yeah, maybe there's a reason that a lot of 18-year-olds don't make the NHL. I think it's gonna be really interesting to see what they do with Cole Sillinger next season. Does he go back to the NHL? Does he start the year in the A and work his way up? Does he? I don't know. I don't know what they do. I genuinely don't. In the list of players, when I did the healthy Blue Jackets and I picked the top 13 forwards, Sillinger was the 13th forward. I don't know what they do with Cole Sillinger. I don't think he should be the 13th forward. I think you either play him in the NHL or you play him in the AHL. You don't keep him around practicing with the big guys and sitting in the press box. That seems stupid to me. So does he go to the AHL and immediately kind of sit on that top line with, your Trey Fix-Polanskis and your Carson Myers and, build that confidence and score a bunch of goals? Does he get back in the NHL and work his way back up? I think it probably does depend on the coaching hire, which hopefully we're going to have some news about soon-ish. They keep mentioning more and more names. I think they're going to make a decision pretty soon. It looks like it's going to be either Pascal Vincent or Peter Laviolette, depending on what Laviolette wants to do. Both options I'm fine with, basically, but I think there'll be very different options in terms of how the team looks at the start of next season. So I think the coaching situation depends on what happens with Cole Sillinger, but it feels like a delicate situation. I don't think it's a case of if he has one more bad season, then he's done and he's a bust and he'll never play in the NHL again. I think that seems melodramatic. He turned 20, literally, yesterday? I'm recording this Wednesday night, and I'm recording this on the 17th, and he turned literally 20 years old on the 16th. He's 2 NHL seasons in, and he just turned 20 yesterday. I'm not worried about Cole Sillinger yet. But I think next season is going to be interesting in terms of will I start to worry about him. He's still developing. He's not technically a prospect anymore because he's played over 100 NHL games, but he's still very much a developing young player. And I think the Blue Jackets have to be careful what they do with him. In a minute, we'll talk a little bit more about what that could look like next season, and I will give him a letter grade. But first, I have got to tell you all about eBay Motors, because a championship team needs every player to be a perfect fit. And it's the same thing when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts or accessories, head on over to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. All you have to do is add your ride to My Garage, look for the green check to know the part will fit, or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to US customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Every day is, make sure you stay tuned for tomorrow, where Hayden will return, and we're going to be talking about positional needs for the Blue Jackets and how they did at forward, defense, and goalie this season, where they need to improve on, all fun things like that. But we're going to just finish up on Cole Sillinger here. In terms of what I would do with him next season, again, I think it depends on the coach. I think Vincent probably keeps him in the NHL, and I think Laviolette sends him to the A. And I'm not opposed to either role, honestly. I would love to see Cole Sillinger back in the NHL, but I would love to see Cole Sillinger in the top six. And as of right now, I don't know that he's going to get top 6 minutes. So, like, to me, the ideal top 6, in a perfect world where everyone is performing to the best of their abilities, you would have Gaudreau and Laine on that top line with a center. Who's that center? Who's to say? That second line, to me, should be Kent Johnson, Cole Sillinger, Kirill Marchenko. That's your second line, to me. In a perfect world, is he going to get those minutes? Or is he going to sit on the fourth line? Or is he going to sit on the third line and play those checking minutes and then not score points? And then, we just keep on going around and around in circles. It's frustrating. It really is. So if they're going to play him in the bottom 6, F it. Play him in the AHL where he can get, 25 minutes a night and put him on a line with Prefix Wolanski and Carson Meyer or, literally whoever. Let him drive that line. Let him build confidence. If you want him in the NHL, you got to play him in the top 6. It helps no one if you're playing a top 6 player in the bottom 6. I get this, they don't want to give him too many minutes and they want him to kind of work his way back up. Like some players are not. Some players are top 6 players, some players are bottom 6 players. And I get that, you see that a lot with a lot of teams. I think Toronto is a really good example of Nick Robertson, who took ages and ages to kind of finally make it with the Leafs because he wasn't getting top 6 minutes and they didn't want to play him in the bottom 6. So they just kind of kept shuffling him back. And that's frustrating, but I think it's the right choice. So I either want Cole Sillinger in the top 6, or I want him in the AHL. I don't really want to see any in between. I don't want to see him that 13th forward bull crap. And, he plays every other game and plays 8 minutes a night. Either give him the minutes or don't. And that's kind of how I feel about Cole Sillinger. I think there's still a ton of potential with this kid. I really do. And I would love to see that next season. And I think the right coach will be able to bring that out of him. I just don't know who that right coach is, or even if that coach will be hired. So it's going to be a really interesting situation to monitor. Cole Sillinger, for me, is going to be one of the big points to look at kind of as we get closer to the season. Is going to be, right, what do you do with Cole Sillinger? How do you fix... No, he's not broken, but how do you fix Cole Sillinger's game? How do you bring him back to that player that we saw last season? I don't think he was bad this season. He was just kind of snake bitten, and he struggled. But you could see flashes of that Cole Sillinger that we saw last season and flashes of the player that he can be in the future. he wasn't scoring, but you could see, he was getting a ton of opportunities. It felt like he was shooting super low as well. Like he had a 3% shooting percentage this season, So even if you bump that up to like his average, which was what did he have last season? He had a shooting percentage of like 8%. He was shooting at 10% last season. If he was shooting at 10% this season, he would have only scored 6 more goals, but that's still, 9 goals instead of 3, which looks much better. And goal scoring is a confidence game. I think if he scored a couple more goals, then, you build that confidence and you do a lot better. I'm going to give Cole Sillinger a D for this season, which feels unfair, maybe, but I think it's mostly, it's a D with the underlying comment of you can do better. And I fully expect to see a different Cole Sillinger next season. Whether that's a Cole Sillinger in the AHL tearing it up, whether that's a Cole Sillinger finding his way back in the NHL, like I think we see a better version of Cole Sillinger next season. I think this offseason is going to be really important. I'll be interested to see how he looks in prospect camp, in training camp. I don't know that he's eligible to go to Traverse City this season anymore, but I'll be interested to see what happens there. So I'm going to be keeping an eye on Cole Sillinger this offseason leading into the regular season, and hopefully we get to see that Cole Sillinger that scored 16 goals in his rookie season. I would love to see Cole Sillinger be a regular 20-goal scorer, maybe even a 30-goal scorer. That feels like a lot at the minute, but I think, if you get the right players around him, like that Johnson, Sillinger, Marchenko line, I think could be something really special if they manage to get some chemistry going, stick those guys together. That's just my hot take, maybe. That's kind of all I've got for today. Tomorrow, Hayden's going to be back, which is very exciting, and we're going to be talking about how the Blue Jackets did last season, kind of in groups. So we're going to be looking at wingers, centers, defensemen, and goalies. Give grades for each group as a whole, what improvements need to be done, what improvements we expect, what changes we expect for next season. So that's going to be tomorrow's episode. I've been Jake Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the podcast at LO_Blue Jackets. If you've got comment, questions, criticisms, you can email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day. Every day, Locked On Blue Jackets continues to be free and available on all podcast platforms, over on YouTube and on Sirius XM. Until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.